This thing will record. Okay, well, I might as well start. People can come in while I'm presenting. All right, hi everybody. Thanks for coming today. This is really great. This is already 10 times more people than I thought were going to be here. For anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Jeff Werner, and I'm a designer here at the Beaty. I'd like to take 15 minutes of your time, maximum, because I want to answer 3 questions in front of you. I want to answer the questions, where have I been in my life? I want to answer what I'm doing now here at the Beaty, and I want to talk about where I want to go in the future. And I titled this presentation, I call it Me, You, and the Beaty. And I want to answer these 3 questions by talking about things in my life that I've basically found beautiful. So a little bit about me. I'm a blogger, I'm a tweeter, I'm a photographer, I do a little bit of video work on YouTube. I also race bicycles, and I recently started taking singing lessons. I was born in this year, in this province. I'm specifically from here in Vancouver. When I was a kid, I was really into bikes, and I was into these, and I was into popular culture like this, and I was really into her. And then when I was 12 years old, my family moved to the small town of Nelson in the interior of BC, which looks like this, and is famous for this, and really famous for this, and also famous for this. When I graduated from high school, I moved to Victoria, where I went to this institution, which is famous for these things here. And while I was there, I studied critical theory, which I applied to watching films like this, and like this. And I also was inspired by beautiful art I studied in my art history degree from artists like this, who's famous for work like this. I was also a reporter, because I did a minor in journalism while I was there. So I worked for the Marlet, the student newspaper, where I did articles on subjects like this, and even about guys like this. I'm inspired by my parents, who in 1969 hitchhiked around the world. This is a picture of my mother climbing in the Alps. This is a picture of my mother under the giant Buddha in Afghanistan, which was built in the 6th century, but which the Taliban blew up in the 21st. So I wanted to go travel around the world and see things before they were blown up. So I went and looked at temples like this. I saw homes like this. I went to Baghdad, but these guys were already there, so a bunch of stuff had already been blown up. But I did get to meet some interesting people like this guy, and I was even featured in a newspaper in Norway like this. I came back to Vancouver, and I realized I needed some more structure in my life, so I started coming up with these series of frameworks by which I could live my life and make my decisions. I came up with this kind of really crude one. It kind of went like, I wanted to put myself in situations that are hard to get out of. Which, I got to come up with a better way to say it, but I think what it really means is that I just wanted to hang out with people more, which is another way of saying I just wanted to get involved, which I think is another way of saying I wanted to take on more responsibility in my life. So what I did is I moved in with these guys here, and we live in this house here in Vancouver. I started bike racing again, but now instead of being just responsible to myself, I'm responsible to these guys here. I joined an artist-run center in Chinatown, where I'm on the board of directors, and I have responsibility there for managing studio spaces for artists and designers. While I'm working at 228, I get influenced by artists and designers that other people like. So I love the work of Andy Goldsworthy, who takes natural objects and creates these sort of aesthetic patterns out of them. I'm also inspired by the beauty of Theo Jansen's work, who takes plumbing pipes and makes these giant autonomous creatures that live on the beach and are powered by the wind. I'm inspired by the film Rushmore, which is about this character named Max, who starts a bunch of clubs. So while he goes to school, his grades go down, but he gets really involved in creating all these clubs and activities that he's interested in. I'm also inspired by the work of Stefan Stagmeister. He's a graphic designer from Austria working in New York. He's really famous for doing graphic design, like this poster here where he carved the words into his chest. But I'm actually interested in the frameworks that he's learned from design that I've applied to my life. One of my favorite quotes of his is that in everything I do, I think having guts always works out for me. So I had the guts to go back to school. I went to the Carr University, where I studied design, but I also went there to create a bunch of clubs, like these ones here and these ones here. While I was there, one of my very first assignments was to learn how to cast and plaster. So I had the guts to ask a classmate I'd never met before if he would shake hands with me while someone wrapped plaster bandages around us for 3 hours. I also wanted people to hang out with us at Emily Carr more, so I helped organize a bunch of events. This is a poster we designed where we literally used guts for the poster. I did this project with my friend Misha, where we broke onto the roof of Emily Carr, and he had a tin can next to his ear and a big long string, which we strung to me standing on the Gravel Street Bridge. And we invited all our classmates to come onto the roof of Emily Carr and talk to me through the world's longest tin can phone. This is a project where we developed an advertising campaign for the university. So we awarded $30,000 in advertising in bus shelters around the city. And we designed this poster that said, "Small school, big ambition." But then at night, we snuck into where the posters were stored, and we poked holes in the back of them, because during the day, the posters would say, "Small school, big ambition." But at night, when they were backlit, they would say, "Small school, big balls." I noticed that other students around the campus were doing kind of cool projects. This is a group of students who stole all the garbage produced by Emily Carr in one day, and they installed it in a gallery. So the people that came to school the next day would visualize how much garbage they were producing. And they did an audit again a month later and saw that the waste produced by Emily Carr went down 25% in conjunction with this exhibit. So I realized that I wanted to do projects that had guts, but I wanted to do projects that affected change in people's lives, especially positive change. So I thought about friends of mine who are working in fields that are affecting positive change. Like my friend Sean, who works at Carnegie Mellon, where he's developing cars, but instead of doing gasoline engines, he's doing research into fuel cell technology. I'm inspired by my friend Mark, who instead of working for this company here, at this place here, is instead working for this company here, installing wind turbines around the world. I'm inspired by friends of mine, Tobias and Hamza, who are doing a relief effort in Pakistan, where you can make a direct donation and they provide beds for people who are affected by the floods in Pakistan. So for me, I want to be a good designer, and my definition of good design is it's a process that helps solve other people's communication problems. So that's what I want to do. So I did a project where I went to the Philippines and I worked with women in a village here, and I helped them communicate the work that they were doing with natural fibers to a group of women in another village who had their own weaving center. So they could communicate with each other and share their products and then sell them to fashion designers for a premium so they can make more money for their families by selling these items to fashion designers in Manila here. I then actually rode my bike across Indonesia. I went south, where I saw beautiful things like this here and this here. And I learned how to smoke and play the gamelan here. And I saw people celebrate, and I saw people die, and I saw people in love. And I even found love myself while I was there. And then I ended up in Bali, where I got an internship with an organization that was building the most sustainable campus in the world. So for the first month, they gave me a knife, and I sat down and I whittled bamboo pegs, so I could help build buildings and classrooms like this one here and this building here, which are all out of sustainable materials, bamboo. I wanted to do a project of my own, and because I'm into bicycles, I noticed other kids were into bicycles there. So I did a program for kids that couldn't afford bicycles. I found old Dutch bikes around the village that had been left there since the colonial era, and I fixed them up, and then I created a series of trails and network paths that connected their villages to the campus so they wouldn't have to take a motorbike or get driven by a car to school. Before I left Bali, I got interested in education, so I set up an internship program. So before I left, students from around the world at universities in America, Germany, and Canada could come and learn about sustainable design the way I did in Bali. So I finished my internship there, and I came back to Vancouver, where I'm involved in organizing workshops and what we call design charrettes. This is a program where we invited a guest speaker to look at issues that are affecting Vancouver. In this case, we were interested in food safe issues. So we got students together to generate ideas about how we could look at issues of food safe in Vancouver and solve some of those problems. I don't know if you noticed in that previous slide, maybe you recognize this guy here. Well, Josh, he introduced me to this guy here. So I'm just going to quickly talk about what I do at the Beaty right now. I design displays like this, like these drawers here. I designed a bunch of shadow boxes like these ones here. I was also involved in doing part of the fish label set, so I designed a bunch of these fish labels here. I did some banner design, helped organize some of our branding collateral. I've also looking at ways that we could reapply our branding. We did some t-shirt designs together, did some illustrations like this one here and this one here, and occasionally I even do the dishes here. I'm also involved with updating our social network services, involved with updating the Facebook, the Twitter, and actually tracking the statistics for how many visitors we're getting to these services. And everything I do at the Beaty, I keep a log of what I do. So when I come in the morning, I keep track of what time I start, what time I end. Then I have a column for everything I did that day. But I also have this other column where I want to keep track of everything that I've learned. And since I've been here, it's been a bit sparse. So I want to just quickly talk about where I want to go, and specifically where I want to go with you guys here working at the Beaty. So I was reading some journal articles in the lounge the other day, and I read this article about, the Hudson plane crash that happened last year. When I read about this article, it really drove home for me the relevance that a museum like the Beaty can have to its community. So it turned out that this plane crash was caused by a bird strike. So they took tissue samples from that bird strike and collected tissue samples from a museum in the area, and were able to pinpoint exactly what kind of bird caused the crash. It turned out to be a Canada goose. But it made me realize the relevancy we can have in not just talking about biodiversity, but talking about a number of issues facing culture in our community. So this is a picture of the design team here at the Beaty. Why I'm interested in showing this, because we're not just designers, but two people here are also artists. This guy is studying philosophy. This girl is studying landscape architecture. This guy's an industrial designer. And this guy's an artist and video maker. So for everything that we do at the Beaty, it takes a diverse team of people with expertise in all different areas. So when I design a drawer like this, it's actually a researcher who's been doing research in a scientific field, who tells us what she thinks is important about her field. Then we get a team of writers who distill that into information that the public can find accessible. We have a team of fact checkers who make sure everything is accurate and the truth. And then we have a team of installers who put them in the museum. So everybody from the people who designed and manufactured the cabinets, to the people who paid for them, to the team of volunteers who welcome the public to come here and talk about people's passion in biodiversity. So what I want to do and everything is I want to always work with smart people. And I think I'm working with some of the smartest people in the world right here at the Beaty. So I really realized this when we had the opening 2 weeks ago, and people came down and see the work that we've produced. And I think we're producing some of the smartest and best work in the world on some of the most important issues. So I want to just quickly talk about how I want to use design to help talk about these issues at the Beaty. Remember Sagmeister, the guy who talks about having guts? I love this identity he did for the Casa de Musica in Portugal. The building is designed by Rem Koolhaas, and the way they developed the identity was to show the complexity and the different perspectives of the building. So the identity is constantly changing, just like people's view of the premise and of the building changes. I love how the identity actually speaks to the complexity and diversity of the programming that they have there. So it changes color depending on the color tones in the posters for what event that they're showing at the Casa de Musica. I also love how they have this logo generator, so you can upload a picture of your own and have a personalized identity from the Casa de Musica. I think we're doing great work like that here, where we have this symbol at the Beaty that we can apply to different areas and show the complexity and diversity at the Beaty. And I'd love to start exploring how we're going to use that in other mediums, like in video or mobile devices. Everything I do at the Beaty, I want to make sure it's sort of a co-grow opportunity. So all the time that I spend here, I want to learn new things about design, but at the same time, I want to give that back to the Beaty so we can kind of grow together. So you know how Google has that 20% program where every employee is allocated 20% of the time, 1 day a week, to work on projects that they're choosing, not necessarily ones that are assigned? I'd love to do something similar here. Maybe it's only 10% a week. So I want to start filling up this column of what I learned and give that back to the Beaty. I want to be what I think I'm going to call like a share coordinator. So I'd love to set up like an assets database. So for everything that we design here, we can have a database that is searchable. Say if I want to find all the designs we've done for sea stars, it'll show me all the sea star designs. If I want to search for every design that has a map included in it, it'll show us all the designs that have a map. I think what I want to look at here is the beauty of open data. And it's not just data that we share amongst ourselves, but I'd love to license everything under a Creative Commons license. So we share that with the world. We give back to them. I think we could be a major contributor to Wikimedia as well. I see that we're not the only ones doing this. There's actually a number of departments at UBC that are looking at this beauty of open data. Managing the Twitter for the last 2 months or so, we've already got organizations like the UBC Sustainability, and the UBC Library Vault who are following us on Twitter. I'm also really interested in working on the Vancouver 2020 campaign, where Vancouver wants to be the most sustainable city by the year 2020. And I think the Beaty could play a major role in doing that. And that's it. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, thanks for coming out. I really appreciate it.